Hello, how you doing today? Or hey, welcome. I'm gonna give it a few seconds for people to jump on the live if you do. And while you're coming in, drop where you're watching from in the comments. Are you having a good day? Are you having a good week? How's the weather? While we wait, I want to talk about something real quick. A lot of people are using AI wrong. They're typing basic prompts and getting basic answers, and then saying AI doesn't work for them. That's like buying a gym membership and only using a parking lot. Now, what I do and what I teach at Promptify is prompt engineering. Um, and that can sound complicated, but it literally just means knowing how to talk to AI so it gives you something you can actually use. Today, I'm going to show you in a certain topic, and by the end of this, you'll be able to do this yourself in about 5 minutes. And everything I show you is inside Promptify, and the link is in my bio, and you can start for free. So for today, what we'll talk about, just a sentence to summarize what the point of today's message is build a useful digital resource from a repeated process. All right. So what I'm going to say real quick is, so this starts as a repeated client problem and ends as a one-page resource with a clear job, checkable steps, and useful feedback questions and honest boundaries. So, AKA, you see something repeating over and over again, you can make that into a resource. Or it could be a part of your FAQ question because it's literally a frequently asked question. All this is like the same. I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but in slightly different ways, right? I've also mentioned this exact example in some prior videos. So, same thing as this week so far. I'm gonna try and keep this video under 20 minutes because I want all of it to fit on Instagram instead of me telling Instagram to go find the rest of it on YouTube or TikTok. So I'm gonna try and be precise and to the point and not segue too much. But same thing. All 5 of the short form videos today are an entire system that makes up what I'm going to explain in this long form video. I'm going to explain every single short and all of them and how they're used together in the system for today. So I'm going to read off the steps real quick. I'm going to explain what each prompt, because there's one prompt per short. I'm going to read off all 5, explain the steps, and then I'm going to actually flip to the screen, show you each prompt, read the answer, and explain how it's an entire system. So, real quick, this is start. We're building something useful, not predicting sales. Right? So, the first prompt is select the smallest useful concept. The second prompt is the second prompt is fill in every blank with confirmed knowledge. The third prompt, and these are just very, very summarized ways of explaining what's going to happen in the prompt. So for the third prompt, we're going to test it against one real process. For the fourth prompt, we're going to ask intended users about clarity and not praise. We want the real truth answer. The truth will set you free, literally. The truth will make it so that now you can get to we're talking, when it comes to, as I said in the short, everyone's going to have their own clocks on when they accept truths in their life. But if you're literally doing entrepreneurship or business, or you're trying to make money, you need to accept truths. As the sooner you can accept it, the better, because what happens is, you hearing what you want to hear can block you from succeeding any further. Like, if you need to do something better, you need to actually just address that. We're talking about making money. Someone's paying you for a product or service. Figure out exactly what you need to do and what's the value of it, and accept it. Because what happens, the sooner you can accept that, the sooner you can actually, now you're not whatever level you were at, now you can go to another level. Some things might be hard to accept than others. Some people might not want to hear that. There's a little segue. If, let's say that you're in a certain stage in your business, let's say you're doing a startup, let's say you don't have funding for ads or whatever, and it means you need to do a lot of organic outreach. You might not like that. You might not like that you got to spend a crazy amount of hours doing organic outreach. But if you accept that if somebody showed you an exact system and said it'll get you results, and it's a ton of volume that you, like, it could be 8 hours a day, like you sitting there typing, you have to, the sooner you accept that, the sooner you make the money. Especially, there could be a time window on that. That might be something you could use to get in the door within the next few years, and a few years later that might be saturated. So if you accept it now, you might make enough money that now you can stop doing that and start just using ads. So if you do the hard work now and accept it now, you might create yourself a future that you might never have to work again by next year, because you accepted it and then you made so much money that now you can reinvest that in, and now you can step away and not have to work on this anymore. Or your work is different, or you can go and open a new business. You created freedom for yourself. Now you're free to do what you might want to rather do, or move on to something else, or put your time and energy somewhere else, because you accepted the fact that right now, here's the key to this treasure chest, and are you going to use it or not, right? Extra segue I didn't really have to do, but I'm just nailing in that point because I think it's very important. And anybody who has an opportunity that they see there was a time window and there was some type of trade-off, and they seen that they didn't take it and then they missed out on it, and now they have to live with that for the rest of their life. Even though they can have other opportunities, they just miss a current one. The next one might be harder. Who knows, right? So take it while it's there. Also, you need to also implement balance. So working harder might mean more sleep, more recovery, more hydration. Just keep all this in mind. There's going to be some type of sacrifice, but don't avoid the truth. Accept the truth and then do what it takes to accommodate it, and including keep your health. Segue over. So let me just get back to the point. So for the fourth prompt, I said ask intended users about clarity, not praise. Just segued into that. And then show the first step and boundary. So check copyright, check the privacy, check the technical accuracy, and check professional advice limits. Check professional advice limits. And okay. So that's the 5 prompts I'm going to actually showcase on the screen now. I'm about to flip to the screen. And I'm going to read everything off, like I said, and show how this is an entire system. So are you ready? I'm going to flip to the screen. There we go. Oops, I just moved this. Didn't mean to do that. Just want to flip to the... Okay. So, okay, I'm right where I need to be. So this first prompt is, turn these repeated work process notes into 3 small digital resource concepts. For each, there's going to be a specific problem. There's going to be an intended user. There's going to be a smallest useful format. And there's going to be what does this resource not cover? And then do not predict, do not demand, and do not predict demand, So don't predict what the demand will be. Do not predict what the revenue is going to be, and do not predict what the results are going to be. Then I pasted the notes, what I taught the ChatGPT, gave it some information to put in, so it's already filled that in. It's kind of similar to what I used yesterday and the day prior to that. So it's just a constant example that you can see how this is being implemented in multiple different systems now, because I've kept this information consistent. So you saw how it was used yesterday. Now you see how it's used today. So for the answer, so for the first thing it was asking about was the link. Okay, so here's the thing: LinkedIn messaging gap checklist. So the specific problem is reviewing LinkedIn posts and identifying repeat messaging gaps. The intended user is someone reviewing their own LinkedIn posts for repeated messaging. The smallest useful format is 1-page checklist. And what the resource does not cover, it does not cover business performance. It does not cover revenue. It does not cover audience demand. And it does not cover a broader content strategy. The second thing is 10 post messaging audit worksheet. So the specific problem is organizing the observations while reviewing a set of LinkedIn posts. The intended user is someone conducting a review of 10 LinkedIn posts. The smallest useful format is a fillable worksheet. And what does the resource not cover? It's posts outside of the 10 post review, business results, or recommendations beyond the messaging review. So for three, the 5 priority recommendation template is the specific problem is turning identified messaging gaps into 5 clearly organized recommendations. The intended user is someone who has completed a LinkedIn messaging review. The smallest useful format is a 1-page recommendation template. And what the resource does not cover is practicing outlines. What the resource does not cover is practicing outcomes. It does not cover measuring business performance. And it does not It does not cover creating additional recommendations beyond the 5 priorities. So what this answer just did, let's go back to the prompt. What the answer did is it said turn these repeated work processes into notes. Turn these repeated work process notes into 3 small digital resource concepts. So the 3 small digital resource concepts were the LinkedIn messaging gap checklist, the 10 post messaging audit worksheet, and the 5 priority recommendations template. Now, what we address with each of them. So with each of these 3 small digital resource concepts that we got from the work process notes, what it did for each one, it defined the specific problem, the specific problem, then the intended user, then the smallest useful format, and what the resources did not cover. And it did not predict demand, it did not predict revenue, and it did not predict results. So that's that prompt there, addressing that. So for the next prompt, or second prompt, is create a 1-page resource outline from this confirmed concept. And it uses section start here. It uses the section what to gather. It uses the section steps. It uses the section checklist. Okay, the last section that it used, the second last section that it uses checklist. Then the last section that it uses is when to get help. So it uses, and then I filled that in. I taught the ChatGPT before this, so it has the information to fill in for me. And if it uses what I filled in for any detail not provided, and it does not invent instructions. And then the concept was, and I pasted the approved concept. Now for the answer, it's the first thing is start here. It's review 10 LinkedIn posts to identify repeat messaging gaps. What to gather is 10 LinkedIn posts, and then we filled in what else was to gather. The steps was review the 10 LinkedIn posts, identify the repeat messaging gaps, and then there's fill in. The checklist is 10 LinkedIn posts gathered, the repeat messaging gaps, repeat messaging gaps identified, and then there's fill in. That was a checklist, and then when to get help, then we fill that in, right? So that's just addressing the information that was in this prompt. So the prompt again, obviously, is create a 1-page resource outline from this confirmed concept. And then we use the section start here, as you've seen. We use it, scroll back up. So we use the section start here. We use the section what to gather. As you can see, there's start here. There's what to gather. The next section after that was the steps. And the next section after that was a checklist. And then the final section was when to get help. And we filled in the information already. So as you can see, like I said, this is consistent. The information is consistent throughout all the prompts. As you see, we're constantly referring to the 10 LinkedIn posts and the messaging gaps. And let me just scroll up so I can read off exactly. The messaging audit worksheet, the message gap checklist, the 5 priority recommendations template, blah, blah, blah. All this same idea that I'm repeating over and over again. This is from, I think I specifically started this over the job. When I was talking about jobs, there was like a job checklist, a checklist for a business verifying your abilities. Yesterday or the day prior, that's when I started consistently using this information, so I carried that into today. But I forgot the title I put on the one yesterday, which would help me quickly explain what I said. Okay, so here we go. Let me just scroll down to the next prompt. So the next one is, so turn this real process into a checklist. Turn this real process into a checklist another person can follow. Use one observable action per line, mark assumptions or required access. Do not add steps that are not described. And then the process already told ChatGPT that. So for the answer, it's gather 10 LinkedIn posts and then confirm access. Review the 10 LinkedIn posts. The next is identify repeat messaging gaps. The next is develop 5 priority recommendations. The next after that is put the audit findings into a PDF. And the next after that is discuss the PDF with the client on a 1 minute 30, discuss the PDF. I'm just going to reread it. Discuss the PDF with the client on 1 30-minute walkthrough call, confirm call access. So that's that prompt. And what does that do? That turns it, as I'm saying in the prompt, that turns this real process into a checklist another person can follow. AKA, that's a major, huge point of this thing. Making the idea I'm talking about today, making something a checklist people can follow, or making something into a checklist. Turn this real process into a checklist another person can follow. Use one observable action per line. Mark assumptions or required access, and do not add steps that are not described. So that's literally what I just read here. Now, and then the information was filled in. That's been consistent throughout the past few days. And let me just go to the title of today's real quick. So, build a useful digital resource from a repeated process. So a useful digital resource is probably going to be in checklist format, because then it's easy for someone else to follow. You could probably easily understand your own notes unless you had to organize it with AI. But like, if you're going to pass these notes to someone else so that it's useful, obviously having in checklist format, that's why I keep saying that. Now, and that's also what we talked about, what we do. So the next prompt, or the fourth prompt, is write five usability feedback questions for this draft resource. Ask about clarity, ask about missing steps, ask about unnecessary steps, and ask about when the user would need more help. Avoid leading questions, and do not ask for testimonials. And the resource outline is, and then I had put that in. So the answer is, which part of the resource is least clear to you? The second is, where, if anywhere, do you feel a step is missing? The next question after that is, which step, if any, feels unnecessary for completing the process? The next question after that is, at what point, if any, would you need more help to continue? And the next question after that is, what, if anything, would you change about how the resource is organized? And what does that do? That's write 5 usability feedback questions for this draft resource. Ask about clarity, ask about missing steps, ask about unnecessary steps, and ask about when the user would need more help. And you avoided leading questions, and you do not ask for testimonials. So that's literally the 5 questions I just read off address exactly that. And it avoided leading questions, and it did not ask for testimonials, but it did ask for clarity. It asked for clarity. It asked for missing steps. It asked for unnecessary steps, and then and then when the user would need more help. So that was literally, you could literally see the same wording in all those questions that I just read, or you could just rewind the video and see that when I read that out loud, if you want to hear it rather than read it yourself. I literally said those things. So the next prompt is, draft a concise how to use this resource note. So what you'd include in that is intended use. You'd include a first step. You'd include what it does not replace, and you'd include where the user should get help. and you use only the information provided and do not promise outcomes. And then the resource details, I already talked to ChatGPT about that. And just like I said in the fifth prompt, what it would do is you would give somebody literally an instruction manual in some way, shape, or form, so that when you send them information, like they know exactly what to do with it, and then you don't have to worry about whether that gets done or not. It's instead of them saying they didn't know what to do, they just say that they chose not to do it, if anything, right? But it's not. You're being clear. Everybody's clear about what's going on, so that's not. It's the clarity and people misunderstanding is not a thing anymore, right? If you do that, obviously. So the answer is, so intended use is use this resource to review 10 LinkedIn posts, identify repeat messaging gaps, and organize 5 priority recommendations. The first step is gather the 10 LinkedIn posts. The next and then the next thing is what does not replace. This resource does not replace the review of the 10 LinkedIn posts or the client walkthrough. And then the where to get help section is discuss the PDF with the client during the 30-minute walkthrough call. Now, what did this answer do? This answer exactly, it drafted a concise how to use this resource note. And what it included was the intended use, which was the first point we talked about. There was the first step, which is the next point we talked about after that. Then it said what does not replace, which is the next point we talked about after that. And then there was a where the user should get help, and that was literally the final point of that. And then there was a description for each thing. So literally, like I said, being kind of funny when I say instruction manual or an instruction guide, but that's literally what it is. So basically, you put all these together. That's a system for. Let me just read out the exact title. That's an exact system for how to build a useful digital resource from a repeated process. And then going further and even making sure that, a person would get use out of this system by literally giving them an instruction manual on how to use this information, right? So what I'll say real quick is, as per usual, so you can find all this. You can find all these systems, whether it's individual or you need an entire system. However you need it, this Inside Promptify is free to start, and the link is in my bio. Now, if there's anything I did say today that was helpful towards you, that's amazing, and I hope you have a great day.